That's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Hey, so it crossed my mind the other day that super fast Clone Hero gameplay doesn't mean a lot to people outside of the super dedicated community that surrounds the game, so I wanted to start trying to do a better job of explaining what makes the accomplishments I go for interesting and difficult on their own. Today's FC is Synth Battle vs. Mattias, the final boss synth battle of the Synergy set list. This song has two major solos, both being about equal in difficulty and both requiring strange techniques to pull off. It starts off with these fast descending trills, which I hit with 2 skip taps per cycle. If you're unfamiliar with that method, it's essentially like tapping rolling descending triplets, but so fast and light that they register as 2 trills. This is something that's not that bad to do consistently, but on this speed and over the course of this 3-hour grind, it really got to my wrist over time. The rest of the first solo is just pretty fast standard tapping techniques. These kinds of patterns make clever use of the hammer-ons and pull-off mechanics so that one tapping or one fretting motion can hit a big chunk of notes. Doing this in sequence with triplets, quads, and quints is how 30 to 50 notes per second stuff gets broken down into 8 to 10 motions per second. Lots of CH gameplay at this level is just ensuring that you're doing the tapping motions as efficiently as possible so that it requires the least amount of unnecessary motion, resulting in you holding the stamina for fast tapping for longer. That in combination with anchoring so that only the top half of each pattern has to be focused on is how these kind of patterns get broken down and turned into tapping methods. It's sort of my shtick to make sure I don't spam or ghost unnecessarily at all, so a lot of this grind's difficulty was in turning all of the complex patterns into consistent and repeatable muscle memory. This pattern here is all chords, so I'm able to anchor both green and orange with my left hand and use my tapping hand to slide back and forth, specifically with my index and ring finger spaced 1 fret apart. It's strange, but it works for the pattern. There's a bit more standard tapping tech before some pretty fast strumming that I hit at seemingly half speed. Whenever you use your finger to flick the strum bar on some controllers, there's enough spring in the switches to rebound the strum bar back to the other switch and register twice. Clever use of WD-40 alternatives that are safe for plastic and tape can make the strum bar bounce just right so that both a downwards rake motion and an upwards rake motion both consistently register 2 inputs. My guitar works like this, so I use that to hit the speed strumming here, as my burst strumming speed is pretty bad at this specific notes per second. After the filler between the solos, we get to the most annoying section of the song, solo 2A. The transition off of this little descending trip, green, orange wall pattern thing would miss at the slightest miss fret, and these strum chords that transition into tap chords at this specific note. I can't describe why it sucks, but just know that it sucks. I FC'd up to that section 16 times, I want to say, and passed it only 4 times. If you don't know how this pattern works, tap chords in Clone Hero can be anchored, so the notes I effectively have to hit break down into trills, trips, and quads. Strangely, as much as I suck at quints, they didn't give me trouble on this grind, so that's pretty good. This is the last big part before the outro. It's a strange jump from reverse quint chimneys, which is a tough enough pattern on its own, to rake tapping chimneys. The last note of the reverse quint chimney is a return to the anchored green. When you're doing rake tapping, you don't have a lot of feel for the time that occurs between the 2 tapped inputs, so for the next pattern that's anchored on red, I have to change anchor as part of the previous fretting motion before I do the rake tap, otherwise that red will miss. Alternatively, I could have done a less clean method, but this was far steezier, which is the most important aspect of Clone Hero, right? This is the outro bit here, which is just fast and complicated tapping right to the end with an uncomfortable transition from strumming to inconsistent ladders, and concluding with a trade-off-like pattern that swaps between this weird quad thing and skip tap quad chimneys. This custom is relatively short, but it's crazy fast. I'm glad it didn't take me longer than a single grind of serious attempts.
I'm starting to get to the point where I'm a little too fatigued to do that skip tapping. Hopefully I get this FC soon, or the other one. Yay! Yes! Fuck yeah. Let's go. That was like just long enough of a grind to where I'm not too frustrated by the outcome. Good enough. Hell yeah. Synth Battle versus Mattias FC. Shout out to Diet Dr. Pepper.